Isn't he still running? I used to get releases from down there from some stock car series. He was running it. I don't know
Yeah,
if he still is.
he still is.
He does pretty well.
7 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. You're on.
Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2018 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGilvery Speedway at 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. Tonight's show is presented, as always, by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Verizon IndyCar Series, and SVRA. Got a couple of things to mention before we kick off here. I want to welcome Fred and Anita Jones. They are down in Florida resting away from the heat. First time he's been down there ever. And they're at Little Willie's RV Park in Arcadia, Florida. And I'm glad that he left because he loaned me his snow shovel so that he won't need it this year. And I hope you saw the video. I sent it out, and of course a number of other people did, of the wheelchair race between Hinch and Rob Wickens. There was an earlier video of him walking. Of course, he's held up by cables and stuff, but he is actually got to move his legs a little bit and is making some progress, though it's very, very slow. If you are an entertainment person and like entertainment on Monday nights, here at McGilvery's, they have Tim Newman. He's here every Monday night, and this coming Saturday, 5 Minutes to Wapner will be back, and then on the 15th, another new group coming in, and it's called 10th of Never, and they will have 2 special guests with them. So if you're looking for a place to come on a Monday or a Friday or Saturday, come on out down to McGilvery's. Next week, I have a scheduled guest. Zach Veach is to be here. So if you haven't seen Zach, and we haven't either, hopefully we will get him in here front and center. Also want to remind you that on Thursday, the December 6th, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the Media Center is the Racers Know Dave Dusick, the 4th charity. If you get a chance to get up there, get up. You can order tickets online, and they're $35, and at the door they're $50. And all money raised goes to Riley Hospital for Children. So Dave doesn't need the money, fortunately, but he wouldn't get any of it if it did. Also, on Saturday, or Friday night, I should say, the PRA weekend at the Grant King Shops, bench race with the pros at the Grant King Shops. On Friday the 7th, between 4 and 8, tickets are $25, including food and beverages. It's presented by Bubba's Burgers, and the shop is located at 8155 Crawfordsville Road, and one of the attending, among other attendees, will be Michael Ashmet from Vintage Indy Registry, and there'll be other guests and elite people, in addition to Fluffy, of course. What else? If you haven't been to the museum yet, you certainly need to go, because the Hoosier 100 or Hoosier Thunder Indiana Short Track Heritage is on display, and they got some great cars. You really, really like that. If you haven't been there, you got to go. Now, my first guest is a gentleman who is here. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot to mention, it fell out. Your favorite doctor's appointment at dentist. I know how to solve that. The Indy Dental Group. Just so happens that one of the owners of Indy Dental Group happens to be here. But he and his wife Liz have got a phenomenal practice. They're rated one of the biggest and the best in the area. If you need an appointment, and you should get one, because I just increased my insurance because I'm probably going to need them shortly. Make an appointment. Call 317-846-6125. And if you have computer problems, which I seem to have been born with, Jack down at Computer Overdrive can help you out. Guarantee you. 317-328-0766. Talk to him. He can help you. And I got a good Christmas present for a race fan. If you haven't subscribed, you ought to subscribe to Trackside Online. It's a great thing, and every PR that comes out from teams or from the series or from the Road to Indy program, you can find it there, and it's not that expensive. It's like $25 or $27. So go to TracksideOnline.com, subscribe to it. You will be glad you did. Now, my first guest is a gentleman that I've had here on a few occasions. He's very busy with his business and his racing, but he was here about a month or so ago and said, I'm going to have an announcement that's going to really kind of take you by surprise. And I said, ooh. So when he called me on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, he said, it's been announced. And so I said, come on in tonight, and here he is. So we're going to find out what's doing. They're moving up from SCCA. Let's find out what's up with him. Please welcome Dr. Jack Miller. You know, you're a dentist. Your dad never drove race cars. Your mother never drove race cars. What got you into racing?
Born and raised here in Indianapolis, and there were 5 kids in the family, 4 boys and 1 girl, and my parents would take us to the Speedway when we were young, and you walk in that place, you just get hooked, and I just decided that's what I want to do. But I had to be realistic also and have something to fall back on, and then, like I've said before, I saw sponsorship potentials with the profession that I would go into. So it all worked out pretty well.
What did you first start racing? What was it you were in? And how did you work
I did
your way
a
up into
Formula Ford when I was 26 years old. And then,
started young.
Yeah, started young. I didn't know what caster, camber, any of that meant. I just got in the car and drove. And then went from there to the Pro Super V, did some Formula Atlantic, and then Indy Lights for 5 years, and then IndyCar. And I ran my first 500 when I was 35 years old.
Well, there's nothing to rush. You're not in any hurry.
No, it was, it wasn't an ideal situation, but it was for me at the time. And I've said this a million times, the happiest day of my life was when I qualified for my first Indy 500. And, I drove home that night. I played a Van Halen song on Top of the World about 10 times. And the lyrics are, I'm on top of the world for just a little while. And I was on top of the world for a little while. I went to bed that night and woke up in the morning, and I go, I'm going to be driving the Indy 500. And then the fear kicked in. It's like, I'm going to be driving in the Indy 500. So it was, it was a good 2 weeks because I was the third one out. And that's when they had 2 weekends of qualifying. And I qualified 17th, and I kind of got to relax those 2 weeks and have more fun at working on dialing the car in and getting everything ready.
And after you retired from driving, I said to you on a couple of occasions I ran into you, I said, why don't you get a team and get in it? And you said, no, too much politics. I'm not into it. But now you're slowly working your way in.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, I enjoyed, and in the same breath, I enjoyed it and I hated it trying to go find sponsorship. But it's like fishing, and when you catch the big one, it's really exciting. But I really didn't have the passion when I was finished racing to own a team and go through that again. It's kind of like going back to dental school again, and you got through there once and you don't know how you do it again, or. But then when my son started racing, the thrill started coming back, and I just decided, hey, this is what I really want to do. And people have asked me, have you ever driven in the last 3 years that we've run and owned the F4 car? I've never even sat in it. I just said, I'm done. I did my thing, and my attention's going to be on my son and the other drivers of our team.
And speaking of that, you have just recently signed another driver to your team. How did that all come about?
Well, we're switching series this year. We're running they don't call it the Mazda Road to Indy anymore. It's just the Road to Indy. And we're running the USF 2000. Like I said, for the last 3 years, I owned an F4 team with SCCA. We switched for multiple reasons over, but my son's goal is to make it to Indy cars, so we decided that we need to start running on the tracks that he's going to be racing on. Excuse me. We would have gone with this series from the beginning, but the SCCA granted him a pro license when he was 13, so we had to go that route. But Rubens Barrichello's son, Eduardo, which they nickname him Doo-Doo. It took me a while to get used to that. I still think it's disrespectful, but no, that's my name and it's on his helmet. raced against Jack in the F4 series, and a year ago we were testing at New Orleans, and Rubens and I were up on the upper level watching the boys run, and we started a conversation. And a few races later, I was in his bus. We became good friends, and he said, "Hey, I'd really like to maybe work with you in the future." And I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Because you have the same passion that I do. With our sons to do well," but it went a little bit further than that. He wanted, and I wanted my son and his son to be around good people. And his son has very, very good manners. He'll look you in the eye. He smiles, and that intrigued me because we've had other teammates with my son that since he's so young, I didn't really want the same situation that I had. I want to find a good family. Family comes first. The racing will follow wherever it wants to go. But going to the races and trusting that the other person isn't saying things to influence my son in a negative way were very important to me and to Rubens. So we kind of kept it quiet, and we talked all year, and then he found out who our engineer was, Tim Neff, great engineer, and we put together a really good, solid team. I brought a lot of sponsorship to the table, and we put the deal together, inked it, about 2 weeks ago, and we went down to Sebring and had 2 wonderful days of testing. And I'm still a huge fan of Rubens. I loved when he raced in Formula One, and he still races now. The guy, he's 46 years old. I just talked to him tonight, and he's like, "Oh, my back is still killing me." He did a 12-hour endurance go-kart race down in Brazil. But it was one of our highlights of our 2-day test was Rubens got in Jack's car, and actually was a lot faster than I thought he was going to be. He still knows how to stand on the gas, and it was really neat for all of us to see such a legend in Formula One drive his car, give feedback. My son went, bending over, talking to Rubens when he brought it in, and talking to the engineer. And I think it's going to be a really good program. The boys are very similar in speed. The first day, Dudu was quicker than Jack, and then the second day, Jack was quicker than Dudu until the very end of the day, and then Dudu got him. We did a spring change, so it's nice to see the data overlay. And my son said, "Dad, it's nice to have somebody faster on the team that I can compare what I'm doing right or wrong." And having Rubens as a coach is
It's not bad.
It's second to none. So,
it's interesting to me, and every time I've talked to anybody that knows you and your family, they said, "You know his son Jack?" And I said, "Yeah, I've met him." "Is there a nicer kid that you've run into?" I said, "Not recently."
Well, thank you.
And he's serious about what he wants to do. Now, obviously, he's going to have to get an education along the way, as you did, but you're going to help him to get. And you said his goal is, or your team goal is to get to the Indianapolis IndyCar in the 500, of course. How long do you think he'll be in the USF 2000? He'll be there a year, 2 years? What's your thought?
We'll just see how it goes. He's still young. He's 15 years old, and if we did a couple years of USF 2000, that's great. If he goes in and I think can finish in the top 3 in the championship, then we'll look at Pro Mazda. I'll probably buy a Pro Mazda somewhere mid-season and start testing them in that, because it seems like all through karting I always had a couple levels higher and faster. Even though he couldn't race because of his age, we would test him in the faster stuff, and then he would get back in the other and feel like he was going slow. So we're committed to the program. We have wonderful sponsors. I see one of them here on this T-shirt, Blue Marble, and my brother Alan owns that company, and
Gee, really?
so he supports us. We can't, from legal reasons, put the name on the cars or on the driver's uniform, but it is on the semi, and he's done a lot of work to help our program out.
You know, how much faster is the USF 2000 than the F4?
It depends on what track, but we've tested up to 6 seconds.
Really?
It's considerable. The chassis is a true race car. The gearboxes are the same between the two, but the way that the actuator to shift it is a much higher quality on the Tatus. The other's air driven that shifts it, and the feedback from my son is it drives like a true race car. He can feel the car. You have to drive these cars loose in order to be fast, and he says, Dad, I've seen it step out, and he says if I was in that F4 car, I couldn't get it back. So
is obviously that he likes the speed. It's faster.
Oh, absolutely. The first time he got out of the car, the big smile on his face is like, this is great. But something that goes beyond that, it's amazing that his knowledge, and I owe all this to Tim Neff, the engineer, has taught these guys how to read the data, not just to read it to them, but he prints out a page and says, here, I want you to put notes on every corner, what you're seeing with throttle, braking, RPMs, miles an hour, how much input of steering, and they're like little engineers, and he's helped so much, and Rubens obviously knows how to read all the data, and so does Dudu. So I usually try and stay out of the engineering room. I'll help. I'll go to a corner and watch, but I have to let him do his own thing. And we're going to still use Gabby Chavez quite a bit this year.
I was going to ask you that.
As a driving coach, and it'll be fun to see Gabby get in the car and then Rubens, because there's going to be a little battle there.
If I'm not mistaken, Rubens has got more starts in Formula One, I think, even as of now, than anybody else, if I remember right.
Correct. Yeah, he had 11 wins, and some of them, I think he would have had a few more, but the circumstance when he drove the red car. So, but he had a great time doing it, and he just I don't know if you've met him, but he's just a very, very nice family person. His whole life are his kids and his wife and his family, and that's who I want to be around.
Well, I met him a couple of times when he drove the IndyCar Series that one year. Didn't spend a lot of time with him, but is there any chance that obviously I'm sure he'll be here to watch the 500 and the Grand Prix? So is there any chance we might be able to pull him in here?
Yeah, absolutely. I talked to him tonight and said I was coming on the show, and he says I'll be glad to do it any time when I'm in town. It might be sooner than that, because Dudu needs to come out and we need to pour a proper seat. We poured a seat for him at Sebring, and we kind of ran out of time, so he's going to come up here, and Fred at Mark I does a great job at pouring seats, and we're going to actually pour one for Rubens also. My son's 5 foot, and Rubens is about 5'6", but we have about that much thickness of the seat to get my son in the right position. So when we took the seat out, that's Rubens moved back, put a blanket in there, and we'll pour a seat for him. And he was excited. It was like a kid at Christmas watching him get in it.
Well, I gotta say, you have now you have a partner. It's Miller Vinatieri Racing, and if anybody doesn't know who he is, forget it. How much in time does Adam have to spend with the team? Of course, they don't play during the summer when the season's on. Does he get the races from time to time?
No, he will this year. I can't say a whole lot, but he'll have some time, and we talk quite a bit. I take Jack over to his house. His son's 2 days older than mine, and Adam, basically it is the mental coach of the team. Obviously when he steps out to kick a field goal, it has to be exact, and he has a ton of pressure on him, and I think that's he's been really instrumental in calming Jack down. And if you watch, Adam, a lot of times will kick 60, 65-yard field goals on the warm-up before the game or even at halftime. Typically, they don't have him try that during a game because unless it's for the Hail Mary to win the game, they're not going to risk losing the ball that far back. But he says it's so easy to do, but then when you step up and try and do that when all the crowd's on you, and he says it just changes mentally, how you have to view your sport and keep control of your mind. And that's something my son is not the world's best qualifier because he overdrives. He's a great racer. We averaged 11 spots moved up this year, and he takes chances that as a dad and a ex-driver scare the daylights out of me. But as a team owner, it's like, all right. And it's a push me, pull me type of a situation in my mind. But so this year, and Adam's been working with him about, why are you passing all these cars? That's great, but why don't you pass them in qualifying? You need to calm down and stick to your basics and let everything go and treat it like another session. And he's been wonderful at helping us out.
It's amazing when you think about that the mental part that Adam goes through, as you said, the crowd screaming. In a lot of cases, if he's in a competitor's stadium, he has to concentrate on one thing: get the ball down and kick it straight. And that's got to be a lot of pressure, especially when, in a number of occasions, he's kicked to win the Super Bowl and he's kicked to win games. So everything's riding on him to do it. And I can see where his influence could be very, very powerful.
Well, and I'll just tell you a quick Adam Vinatieri story. The reason he got so good at kicking was with Mr. Belichick when he was at New England, and they always practice with crowd noise, always. And he would give their special teams tennis rackets. So they would try and bat the ball when Adam would kick it. So instead of kicking the ball at this type of trajectory, Adam was taught to kick the ball up and over so somebody can't get a hand on it. Just little things like that you don't know. And he said they're playing tennis every day trying to knock the ball out of. But it's like in any sport. You have the right coach and you have the passion to do it, you're going to succeed.
I always admired the fact that when you drove in the Indy Racing League initially, that you had a goal in mind to accomplish. That was to get on a team and drive, and you did. I never did. I thought about it, but then I thought the Vaseline would cost me to get in and out of the car. It wasn't worth it. So I've always admired the fact that you had a goal. In fact, I think I've mentioned this once before, that one day I said, you want to be a race driver. Why'd you go to dental school? Because you said, I thought I could sell some product. Now, that's a lot of effort to go through so you can sell sponsorship. But, in fact, you did. In fact, one of your offices, your Crest car is hanging there still. So you had something in mind, you had a goal in mind, and you accomplished it. Now you're taking, and this is meant of nothing at all, but some of the greatest coaches I've ever seen in my time were not necessarily the greatest players, but they learned a lot trying. And I think that, to me, is what you bring to the table. You learned a lot from trying to get to the top. I mean, to me, that's, well, you probably tell me I'm full of hooey. No, I've been told that before.
No, I've never had a driving coach, and I didn't really know that much about racing. I just got in it and did the best I could do, and I mean, there were some people that took shots at me, but and it hurts your feelings because you're working very hard. But I don't want to say it toughened me up, but at the end of the day, I would have been more disappointed if I wouldn't have done, if I would have listened to everybody that said, oh, you're not going to make it there, you're not going to do it. I'll never forget this story. And when I was 8 years old, we were on a swim team, and we were down in Louisville, and they had those diving platforms that go all the way up to 10 meters or 30 feet.
Yeah.
And they opened that up, and there was a bunch of kids that were up there, and then they would come back down the ladder, because you go to the edge of that thing, and being 8 years old, I mean, it looked a lot higher than what it was. And I went to the edge of that thing, and I thought, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. And I'll never forget, my dad looked at me and goes, go ahead and jump. And I jumped, and to this day, I would have, this sounds really, really childlike, but I would have been really upset if I didn't jump that day. And I'm so glad. It's such a small thing, but at the time it was such a big accomplishment for me, because no one else jumped. I think probably 50 people, it seemed like, chickened out and wouldn't go off the thing. And it wasn't as bad as when I hit, but and I try and tell everybody, you're going to have naysayers. When we did the press release, somebody put in there, oh, you're not, my son's not a second generation driver. I had Crest as a gimmick until they got tired of the gimmick, and then they pulled out. This is the furthest thing from the truth. We had a 3-year deal with them. I got paid $1 million a year plus everything else they did, and they paid for all the car, and it was all calculated, and I already had other sponsors lined up way before that. And I read that, and I thought this is the type of person that probably hasn't done a whole lot, and they're the type of person that when I was in high school probably wrote on the stalls in the bathrooms and we're pretty cowardly, and when they make comments like that, I don't get upset anymore. I laugh. It's like, wow, I almost feel sorry for somebody that has to still take a shot when they don't have a clue what they're talking about. And if anybody has driven one of these cars, Tony's sitting over there, he knows it's a lot different. I'm the best dad that son races, because I'll never tell him to drive faster. You can't tell somebody to drive faster, can you, Tony? You just have to sit back, and they have to do it all on their own. And
Well, I know that I hope that I live long enough to see you succeed and get to the next level. I just told somebody today how old I was. He said, "You're going to be kidding, and you're still walking and breathing?" Yeah, I'm still here. But there's a guy here who has something for you. I see he left his wife at home because she didn't want to be bothered with his nonsense. But there's somebody who has something they want to present to you, and it looks like a stick. I don't know if he's going to hit you with it or what.
okay.
This is Glenn Timmis. And as Glenn comes up, I want to mention a couple of people that are here. The co-founder of IRMA, Brian Hassler, is in the audience with us, and the new guy in charge riding through Noggles goggles that are dirty, so it's pretty soon going to be Kaiser's visor. This is Phil Kaiser, who's taken over for John Noggle.
Where did you get that? Where'd you get that?
He stole it.
For about 20 years.
Have you really?
As probably most of you know, Chad and I are IndyCar observers, and I've had this for about 20 years roughly. So that's how long I've been traveling with IndyCar. And I asked him if he had one. He didn't seem to think he did.
Ask who?
I found this baby, and we're going to present it to him. Hopefully he can afford it. To frame it, put it up in his race shop or something like that.
We will definitely put that up. Thank you.
We thought it was pretty cool.
That's Chad in front of me and Glenn Timmis. They're both observers for IndyCar. And sitting behind there, looking at himself, is Jack.
So we'll roll it back up and give it to you in a few minutes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You don't have one of those?
I've never even seen that.
Well, you know why? They put it up somewhere and Glenn scrubbed it. That's why you never saw it.
That Dean's Milk was the company that replaced Crest.
A pretty good name company.
And then we had Olympus the following year, and it was a proud moment when we landed Olympus, because remember the Olympus car in Formula One for years, and they got out of it for quite a while, and then they decided to go with our programs.
Well, it seems like you're heading in the right direction with this program as well. I think it's kind of neat. What does Jack's mom think about all this? Now, there was a time when you got out of a car and you were helped out or put on a stretcher or something. What does his mom think about him getting and working his way up to where his dad was?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I get yelled at.
Welcome to the club.
Tell him he shouldn't do that. Tell him he shouldn't do that. Why is he can't pass on what? I'm like, I'm not going to tell him anything. He's a big boy. He's driving. She doesn't go to enough races where, I'm with him all the time, so I'm so used to it in defense of her. But, she was very adamant that if we continued racing, that we switch over to this series for the safety part of it, the safety personnel and the Humaltro safety crew. And I said on the last show, we were at Mid-Ohio, and a guy got upside down for 8 minutes and was absolutely soaked with gasoline. That was kind of the turning point with me. I said, no, we're not doing this. That's, at Mid-Ohio under a safety car, my son passed this driver 3 times before they got the car upside down. So she feels so much better, and that safety crew has saved my life. I quit breathing at a race in New Hampshire in the Indy Lights. I was qualifying, bottomed out, and went in backwards, and you woke up in the hospital, and I think it was Dr. Alvey the next day came in and said, how you feeling? I said, I blew my knee open. They did surgery on my knee that night, and I said, everything was good, but my throat is on fire. And he said, well, we had to intubate you. And I go, well, you weren't very nice about it. He goes, we were still sitting in the car, and at the time they used to hit the stopwatches when the cars would hit, so they knew if you were unconscious or quit breathing, they know how long you were out. And he said, we didn't have time to get you out of the car. So it was kind of a brutal down the throat and get me going. And I'm not complaining at all. And I feel very safe with my son racing out there. And if something bad would happen, you have the best of the best to take care of him.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I know, yeah. You're right.
Yeah. There's a lot of people alive because of that whole group.
Oh, yeah. Good guys, good people. A lot of effort put into it, and now Jason Penix oversees the operation. What was your reception when you went to the Anderson promotion, said, we'd like to move up and come and run the USF 2000?
They treated me like a king. It was unbelievable. Somebody from their office called me every week. Johnny Baker used to work for Pelfrey, is part of their PR now, and you call them, they instantly get back with you. They were super excited about having Ruben's son join the team.
Yeah, sure.
And I couldn't ask for a nicer group of people. Everything that we've done is we get an answer just like that.
Well, I hope that NBC Sports will do a little more television coverage of the lesser. They do the lights, but I'd like, and they do stream it because I sit and watch it. Now I got to pay to watch it. I'm not happy about that.
I'll loan you $1.
Yeah, thanks. But I hope they get a little bit more coverage, and I think you're going to help that. And I also think Jay Howard coming in, that's a name that people know, and he's a veteran of the 500,
Sure.
and he's bringing a couple of drivers in that should be good. I think, the USF 2000 is going to get off their feet this year, I think, and be worth watching.
Yeah, Jay Howard's a good friend, and he's running both series next year. I don't know how he does it, but every time I go to a track, there's another semi he bought, and he's done a really good job of bringing a lot of drivers from go-karting into cars, and I think he's made a very good business out of it.
He's got a shop up here on the north side somewhere, and I keep trying to catch up with him. He's never here. I don't know what he's got a shop for. He's never here.
Yeah,
Unless he's got a crew like yours, and they're working on it while he's out doing whatever he does.
He's on the phone 24/7 trying to put deals together.
I'm sure of that. And every once in a while, I'll text him, and oh, not him again.
It was pretty amazing when we made the announcement that Barrichello was going to run for us. We literally have probably had 10 real people from all over the world with real dollars say we want to join the team. I mean, Ruben's name is that powerful, and this series averages about 350,000 a year. And I had one individual that I've known for a long time offer over 400,000 and to drive for our team, and I said I really appreciate it, but we want to keep it to 2 cars. We're not in it for the business. We're in it for the results. And you start adding multiple cars, it kind of takes away, and we want to give it a good shot this year to give it everything that we have.
Well, I see there's a lot of folks here that are going to be very interested to see how you do. I would like to. How old is Eduardo or Dudu?
Dudu, 17.
He won't qualify. Well, if his dad can bring him, like you brought Jack. Maybe we'll get the 4 of you in here sometime, and whenever he's in town,
Sure.
getting fitted for a seat. I want to wish you nothing but the best. I appreciate you taking time to come here. I realize you got to rest up because tomorrow's your day.
Oh, yeah. I called earlier and they said I'm pretty full, but if not, I get bored. So.
In case you're wondering, what do you mean? What day? He's got a business. He does surgery every Wednesday,
Well,
dawn to dark, I dare say.
So there's a lot of. Let me tell you something too. This is just a tip. If you ever have to have anything surgically done, tooth removed, wisdom teeth or whatever, do not tell a single person that you're going to have it done. The horror stories that people will tell you that they're, and I hear it all the time. Well, my friend said they had their wisdom teeth and I was swollen out to here and I was on the couch for a week. And I said, well, either your friend was lying or they had a really bad dentist. And the worst thing you can do is tell anybody, because the way the brain works, it's misery loves company, and they love digging it in to scare the living daylights out of you. And the worst thing for me is when mom comes into the room and tells their child, "Oh, don't worry, I'll be out in the waiting room. I'll be right here if you need me." And I'm like, "Thank you. You just ruined my next 20 minutes here, half hour." The best mom and dads they sit there reading a magazine. They go, "Okay, Joey, go back to there and be done." So it's amazing, getting back to the mental part of it. A parent can influence how my afternoon's going to be just by what they say to their kid.
Well, what I'm going to say is good luck.
Well, thank you.
Looking forward to your team advancing, and I have no doubt in my mind that if both of the is Dudu Ruben's looking to move him up as well. Does he want to go through the series and end up at the Speedway or an IndyCar?
I think so. I still think, his passion is Formula One, but I think he's being realistic also. We'll just wait and see. I mean, we talked quite a bit about it, and I said I don't have the name. I don't have the money to go, race, Formula One. My dad certainly can't buy a team for me, so I can get a ride. But I have to be careful because I really don't want to speak on his behalf. But let's just say this: he was in a series that was designed to go to Formula One, the F4, F3, F2 Formula One, and he went to the Road to Indy series. And Rubens has enough money he could do both series or 10 different series if he wanted to, and he chose this for a reason. And let me just leave it at that.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. There's only 3 or 4 teams that usually win, so what's the sense? Here, there's anybody can win on any given Sunday.
Yeah. Well, Cape Motorsports and Pabst Motorsports are really good. They've done a fantastic job, and they're going to be tough to beat, but so are we.
Good. Good luck
Yeah.
to you.
Well, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Dr.
everybody,
Jack
for
Miller,
coming.
Miller Venetary Racing. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. My next guest is sitting back here. If I can pry him away from the young lady he's sitting with. I don't know. It probably won't. But I do want to mention somebody else that's in the house. This gentleman I've known for quite a number of years, and he is a Sherpa. Now, I have no clue in the world what in the hell a Sherpa is. But he is a Sherpa. He's here from Colorado for the PRI show, and he doesn't sing very well, as you heard. I want to welcome Mr. Derek Ross. If you're looking for insurance for your home, your car, or your commercial property, do what I did, what a lot of people have done. Call Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. They're located in Speedway at 5004 West 16th Street. Give them a call. Let them give you a quote. You'll be surprised you get better coverage for less money. That's VP Insurance in Speedway. His number is 317-248-0070. Get a quote. You'll love it. 317-248-0070. Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. You got to come to the country to see why the best prices are, in fact, at the country or in the country at Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. You'll also see why Sam is always at the top of customer satisfaction. Take I-69 north to exit 234, go east 1 mile, and you won't miss him. If you want to get something and enjoy when you go to the racetrack for the IndyCar and the Road to Indy program, you got to join the IndyCar Nation. All you need to do is go to IndyCarNation.com and sign up. And in the promo box, put Don K, D-O-N-K-A-Y 15, and you get 15% off a championship or legend membership. It's great. You could actually wave the green flag to start a practice. You get 2-seater rides. You get a pace car rides. They got all kinds of things that you can do when you go there. So do yourself a favor and take a ride. And I got to tell you another thing. There's a magazine out that if you haven't gotten it or haven't seen it yet, and somebody didn't bring any, it's called Vintage Racing Quarterly. It is a phenomenal first-class magazine. It's not some cheap thing you find in the grocery store. And they got some fabulous stories about drivers and cars that are still put back together, restored, and they're out racing. And there's a bazillion of them. And the guy that's in charge of the fastest-growing vintage racing series in the world, I think, is here tonight. He drove all the way from somewhere upstate New York, battled the snow, the wind, all the other nonsense to get here. I heard it. A 6-hour trip took him 10 hours. I don't know why. But he's here tonight, and he made a special trip to come in, and I'm thrilled to have him. He's the president and CEO of SVRA, Sports Car Racing, Vintage Racing Association, Mr. Tony Perella. When you bought SVRA 6 years ago, was your goal to be where you are now? Or are you surprised at how fast you got here?
I would say in some respects we're ahead of where I thought we would be. In some respects we're not even close to where I think we'll end up. I think we're about on track where I had hoped. I would say the basic business plan had 3 principles. The first principle was to build the largest footprint in the country of Class 1 tracks. And with 14 events in 2019, we've accomplished that goal. There's really, of all the Tier 1 road courses in America, we run at them. Then the second goal would be the scale of that would attract world-class race sponsors because of the scale. So you get Sunoco, you get Hoosier Tire, you get companies, Bell Helmet, Simpson, companies that would benefit by being associated with us because we're so big. The next phase was the people who came to us I knew would be affluent, wealthy racers. And what that's brought to us is luxury brands. So you got Jaguar, Land Rover, NetJets, Airbus Helicopter coming in because they know my customers can afford to buy Jaguars, Land Rovers, airplanes, etc. The third phase is where we're really now. We're on the cusp of that. And that's the part where I'm not where I want to be yet. And that's where we become part of mainstream motorsports, where we could be mentioned in the same breath as IndyCar or NASCAR or whatever sanctioning body that comes to mind when you think about American motorsports. Vintage racing was not on anyone's radar at a national level. And I think we're knocking on the door. I certainly wouldn't say we're part of mainstream motorsports yet, but we're not far away. I think a TV deal, continue to work hard on promoting the individual races. 5 more, 6 more years from now, I think it's very possible we will be mentioned in the same breath with some of those folks.
Well, I know several guys that are involved in vintage series or vintage organizations, and I've asked them flat out, what effect has SVRA had for you? Huge. Huge. Are you kidding? People didn't really realize it. Some of them don't have enough money to run the cars, but they want to join an organization where they can show them or do whatever it is these guys do. And others have a couple of events here and there. Now, when you bought the unit, SVRA 6 years ago, it had 3 shows. Now you're at 14. How far are you going to go?
In terms of number of events, I don't think we'll add that many more. There may be 1 or 2 that I just can't say no to, but really and truly, I think what we need to do now is elevate each one of those 14 to a much higher level. And that's a constant work in progress. There's things that I tried 6 years ago I look at today and go, what the hell was I thinking? There's things that we're going to do this year that I think will really elevate the events we're at. And I constantly try to one-up the year before at each event. So there's something fresh and something new that a spectator who's coming each year says, that's cool. I'm glad you added that. And it's definitely a passion and a labor of love.
Obviously.
But there is a method to some of the madness, that's for sure.
Now, with the size of your events, and I can only speak about this one here at the Speedway, which now has moved to August, which I think is a good idea. Do all of the participants get the track time that they would like?
That's a loaded question.
No, it is.
It's so bizarre. Everybody has what they believe an event should be like for them. I feel sometimes like I'm a wedding planner for 500 race car drivers. It's their personal weekend. If everything goes perfect, and no one goes out there and oils the track, or nobody takes out somebody else and there's a long delay cleaning it up, they get 5 sessions for 30 minutes on track over the course of Friday, Saturday, and 1 feature on Sunday. That's our typical race. And then they have an option if they want to spend extra money. They can race an enduro for an hour or an hour and a half. They can also do test day on Thursday and get another 4 sessions. But inevitably, every weekend, there'll be one race group that they got a bonehead in their group that does something stupid. It causes a delay, or the car wasn't prepped right, and they spew oil all the way around. This one, I had the oval oil. That was sure wonderful. And so I do my best to run late, buy extra track time, make sure everybody got a good run for their money. But the simple truth is sometimes it doesn't go according to plan. I would say 90% of the guys that come to a race with me understand when you put 500 cars in the paddock, stuff's going to happen. And if you want to go to a track day with 20 of your buddies, then you don't do that at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You go do that at some B or C level track. So every weekend I get some complaining about track time, but big picture, I think 90% of the guys really appreciate the job we do and are very happy.
Now, vintage racing, you think of the old Indy cars and old stock cars and old, open wheel cars. Now you have brought back to life Trans Am. What prompted you to, first off, get involved? Now you are a majority owner of the Trans Am series. Do you run other events other than yours? I mean, do you have weekends when you're not at SVRA event, you're running a Trans Am race somewhere?
The move to buy Trans Am was very simple. The end goal for me has always been to elevate SVRA, historic racing, vintage racing, to mainstream motorsports. And whatever means that I can do to accomplish that, I take a serious look at. Trans Am was around when I was a kid. My first exposure to racing was at Watkins Glen, New York in 1970. And I went to a Trans Am race. My dad took me to a race. And that's, everybody has that aha moment where it happened to you. That's where it happened to me. And, Parnelli was in the race. George Foreman was in the race. Guys that went on to race here were racing there in 1970. And I knew that brand could help me accomplish the goal if we ran it right. And as a fan, a race fan, I love American muscle. Corvettes, Camaros, Mustangs that are obnoxiously loud. That let's get serious here with horsepower. I prefer that over a four-cylinder pure sports car. Now, there's people that look at me like I'm Satan for saying that, but the truth of the matter is that's what I grew up with. That appeals to me. So bringing Trans Am to vintage racing, even though they're not part of my show per se as SVRA, they're on the same ticket. You buy a ticket to Trans Am, you see SVRA. You buy a ticket to SVRA, you see Trans Am. And the cross-pollination of the gate, our gates, as an average across the country, have doubled this year, with very few exceptions. This place being one of them, doubled. We had record gates at several of our races, and it's not a coincidence that Trans Am was on those gates. So I think SVRA, Trans Am could never have gone to the schedule that we have. They're going to race 10 races this year with SVRA. They could not afford to go to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Circuit of the Americas, Sebring, Florida, Virginia, all these co-events that we do. They get to do that on the back of the SVRA. However, I draw a heck of a lot more spectators to an event that Trans Am's there, so that props it up. So the two together is a really, really good combo, and we're really learning how to promote it. I'm doing a first time ever event at Laguna Seca where it's built around Trans Am. I'll have historic Trans Am and I'll have modern day Trans Am, and we'll fill in with some other race groups, and I'll bring in legends of Trans Am, and we'll have a heck of a party. And I think that will become a big deal. Same thing holds true in Lime Rock. We're adding a Trans Am this year, so I think it's going to be a big part of our strategy going forward, Don.
Trans Am, the guy who made a name for himself, I'm a little concerned about. Willie T. He got married. I gotta think
he did get married. And
Yeah.
She's a princess. She really is a cool lady.
yeah, and he says,
She had a good effect on him. She really is.
that's my point. He used to go, to have the big party. But he ain't gonna do that anymore.
No.
And when he said, you tell him, look, you want to get in? I'm going to get in a race car. No, you're not.
He's become, through this, I've become friends with a lot of the drivers, but Willie's, I got a special relationship with Willie. And it's just fun to see how he's evolved through this journey of him getting married. He's definitely calmed down. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you noticed, he's a little bit taller than he is. Bam. Okay. I don't know. I call him and talk to him every once in a while. Well, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't record any of those conversations, I can tell you. But, I find it interesting. It just so happens, I don't know why this happened, but I pulled up your 2019 schedule, and you start off, it's not that far away, February 15th to the 17th at Roebling Road Raceway in Bloomingdale, Georgia. So your first event isn't that far away.
I know.
And on top of that, now you have a driving school where if I don't have a car but would like to get licensed in case I hit the lottery and can get one, I can go and get a license. Where is it? What's the deal with the driving school?
We when I went to get my license, my competition license, I went to a Bondurant school out in Arizona. And you get in, at that time I got in a brand new Corvette with traction control, air conditioning, power windows. It was great. And then they gave me a little card, said, okay, you've gone to our 3-day school. It costs $5,000.
How much?
5,000.
That's because it had air conditioning.
And they give you a card, says you didn't wreck anybody and you learned the flagging, so you can go to a vintage race organization, and if they'll have a process, you can get a license. So I went to CVAR at the time in Texas, and I went to SVRA, and they let me race. And what I raced was I got in a 1958 Corvette with no traction control, no power steering, no power brakes, no windows at all, and scared the crap out of myself because everything I learned in school was stupid compared to driving this 58 Corvette. So that kind of has stuck with me. It just didn't seem to. So I get these people coming to me with ready to race, and they're practicing something they're not racing, and it just doesn't work. So we developed our own school. Savannah would not be a race track that I would hold one of our marquee events with fans. It's not one of those. It's a much smaller track, a lot of runoff, but it's a great place to teach people how to go racing. And that's what we do. And I've also cut a deal with a company called Formula Experience out of VIR at Virginia International Raceway. And he also has a 3-day school using my model where you can use their car or you can bring your own car and get an SVRA license. We've cut a deal to work with together on it. And the difference is when you come to my school, it's $500 for 3 days, and if you bring your own car. And if you go to Peter's school and you use their car, it's $1,000. So it's much cheaper than what some of the other schools are doing, and you'll get your first year, we provide the license as long as you pass the medical and fill out a form or something, you get a license.
You seem to have a knack for sponsorship. When I look at your magazine, it reminds me, it's not quite to that, but it reminds me of, I just forgot the name of the magazine. It's the show stars anyway. You got a lot of sponsors. Your series is picking up sponsors, as you mentioned, a few of them. That's only a few. You got Ray Everingham just bought a shock company, and he joined you, having worked with you. He knew how you operated, so he's joined you as a sponsor. You've got yourself pretty well covered. How many people on your staff, full time? I know one for sure.
She wears a lot of hats.
I know.
Full time, 8 people.
With those 8 people, you've taken the club or the association from 3 races to 14. You've gone from how many drivers up to over 2,000, I think, registered drivers. You've gained much sponsorship. You've got a magazine that is second to none, in my opinion. A nice, shiny page. It's really nice. Great stories, great riders, great. And you got 8 people. What the hell do you know that a lot of other companies don't know? I'm proud of my team. We really, I try to hire people who are passionate about what they do, give them the latitude to do their job, and give them the latitude to make mistakes. Not the same mistake, but nonetheless make mistakes. And we got a good culture, and they love what they do, and it shows. There's times it gets to you, but we did 12 events this year. And by COTA, the last event, we were getting a little loopy. We were ready for the off-season, quote, off-season. But, we're already, we'll have a major planning meeting next month where I'll bring the team together and we'll go through schedule, budgets. It's a process that's very, very tight because we got to make sure people are safe and healthy and don't get hurt out there and that we run the best show we can. But I think we've gotten it down now where the team is so good at what they do. We communicate. We don't even have to talk to each other. They just know. She knows what her role is. I know what my role is. And we can jump into the other person's shoes if need to pick up the slack if somebody's getting run over. And I think they care about it.
it's so important. If you do a job that you truly love, you'll be good at it and you'll enjoy it, and it shows to the customer. And I think what I'm most proud of when people go to one of my events, whether they're a competitor or spectator, whatever it is, whatever role they are at our event, I think when they deal with my staff directly, the feedback I get is incredible because we screw up every day, but how they react when we screw up is what separates a good team from a great team. And this team, they just get it. They're empowered to do the right thing and don't disappoint a customer if you can help it.
Now, I read somewhere that your goal in the next 3 or 5 years, whatever it is that your events will be entry fee zero. That's what you're aiming to do, get enough sponsorship to cover it. What does it cost the average guy that flies in, has a crew and a transporter, brings a car, and comes to the weekend? What does it cost to enter your events?
A typical 3-day entry is $595. That's 5 sessions on track, and I feed them a pretty good dinner for 2. And then if they want to buy the extra stuff, like I talked about earlier, the Enduro, it's $300. Test day is $300. So if you average it out across the country, with all the add-ons, probably about $800 is the average total entry. Now, we did a program this year for 19. Every weekend we have a featured mark or featured race group that races for free. I didn't do that for the guy that flies in. The guy that flies in, he don't care if he spends $1,000 or $2,000 for it. He could care less. I did that for the guy that I used to be, where I get in my pickup truck, load my car in my trailer, haul across 15 states to go racing, unload that thing, work all night to make sure I'm on the track. $500 in those days to me was a lot of money. That was the difference between me being able to race or not. So we have done a good enough job that we can afford to give away one race group, at least one. Some of them I'm doing more than that, but at least one race group come as my guest. And an amazing thing's happening. Guys who heard about SVRA events but never actually experienced it are going to, suddenly they'll come and they'll actually have a good time. It'll be an amazing phenomenon. It won't be, I'm not the evil umpire that some of the smaller clubs make us out to be. So we're going to get guys who don't normally race with us get a shot. We're going to get cool shows added. As an example, I tested this at VIR, and we had 23 Corvairs in a feature race. I didn't know there were 23 Corvairs running in the United States. And it was the coolest show to see 23 Corvairs side by side duking it. It was a great race. So I'm going to do them in Mid-Ohio this year. Indy, it's the 50th anniversary of Formula Ford, so I said, screw it. If you got a Formula Ford, come race with me for free. Holy crap, we're going to have a lot of Formula Fords. Now it's going to look like a super highway out there with dummy cars. I don't know, but it'll be fun.
You know, you have in our midst this evening a champion of a series from COTA. He himself is vintage. But he can still build a car. He can take an engine apart, put it together, and work 10 times better when he's done than when he started.
Agreed.
He gets in a car, he and his partner won a series. I'm talking about John Martin.
Absolutely.
I met John probably 25, 30 years ago when he was driving here at Speedway. And I had heard about him because Rolla told me, this guy, he's been around. He's done all. Okay, I didn't know half of what he was talking about. But John would be under his car, over his car, around his car. He knew how to set it up and help get it going. And I since have learned he wasn't full of hooey. He does know what he's doing and still does. And is very successful. And he runs with you, enjoys going. And I whatever it was, I said, what are you doing this weekend? You going home? No. Where are you going? COTA. What the heck are you going there for? I'm co-driving it with so-and-so, whoever he said. When they come back, I said, well, how was your trip? We won. You're kidding. No, we won. You can still do it.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, that's what's interesting about some of the guys that are coming that do run with you that have got years of experience. and some kid that's moved here recently. What's his name? Unser, I think. Al Unser. He shows up every so often. Willie T. Now, if he can get out of the house, he'll show up every so often. Will he be at the Trans Am races? Is he part of your
Oh yeah.
attraction?
Oh yeah.
Have you got it in have you got it in writing yet?
We're actually started. What started here. It's funny how things evolve when you do a business that you don't necessarily see when you start the business, but evolves as things go on. We did our first pro-am here back in 14, I think it was, and John has raced in every one, and the concept is you pair a former Indy 500 driver with an amateur in a Corvette, a Camaro, or Mustang. And that vintage is from 1963 to 1972. In fact, John's first co-driver was Jeff Garrett, and there was a hellacious wreck that no fault of Jeff Garrett's that one of the pros did, and they didn't really get much of a race, but they became buds. And John, I'm pretty sure, raced with Jeff Garrett at COTA, right? Is that who your co-driver was? Yeah. And so what's cool for me is to see the relationships that are formed with the amateur and the pro. And I know for a fact John gets on these guys that the setup's all screwed up and we need to tweak this and tweak that. And lo and behold, by Sunday, they're pretty friggin' fast because of his tweak. So I think it's neat that they went to COTA together. Jeff wrecked at VIR 3 weeks before COTA, and he was sick. The kid's a great driver, and he made a mistake, and he tore up the car. And I know he wanted to get that car ready that you were going. So they made it and ultimately won, so that's pretty cool. But I think we've done I tried something new last year at VIR. I did a second Pro-Am, and this will be considered sacrilegious in this place. I did it with NASCAR drivers instead of IndyCar drivers. It's NASCAR country. It's 100 miles from Charlotte, and I wanted to see what happened. But I brought in a few IndyCar guys. So Max Pappas was there, Little Al was there, Willie was there. But then I filled the rest of it with Bobby Labonte, Bill Elliott, Mike Skinner, Todd Bodines of the world. And oh my God, did we have fun. It was really cool. I was worried that they were going to have a flashback and start slamming into each other and trading paint and Days of Thunder and all that stuff. And Tom Cruise would jump out of somebody's car and say, we can't have none of that. No Ricky Bobby, none of that stuff. They drove a perfect race. They didn't put a chip on a car. They didn't nick a car. It was a great race. And Biffle won the small block, and Boris Seddon and Ray Everham won the big block class. And so from that, we've started another series within SVRA called the VROC, Vintage Race of Champions Charity Pro-Am. So we're going to run 3 events this year. I'm extended to 3. Where first race will be in Atlanta in the last weekend in March, and I'll have only 18 cars. It's a new recipe. It's too hard to do 33 cars here. Holy cow. They beat me to death. By the time that race is over with, I want to go home. I don't want to even go. It's horrible, the stress. So 18 cars is very manageable, and we're going to have, we'll start at Road Atlanta, then we'll come to Indy, and we'll finish up at VIR. My goal is by 20. You can quote me on this. I will have 5 races, and this will be a televised series. That's really where I want to go, and I think that will get us a knock on the door of being part of mainstream motorsports with the legends who built it. I mean, to me, I think it's more interesting to watch Bill Elliott and Bobby Labonte go at it than watch a current day Cup race. Can I say that on this? Or will I get in trouble? Only because I can relate to the personalities, and I don't necessarily follow the kids today. Bill Elliott and Bobby Labonte were heroes, right? Of that era, and the same holds true with IndyCar. To see John and Al Unser Jr. and all that. That's amazing.
I got to tell you, the person that probably gets the most baloney from everybody, if you got a complaint, they come to see her. This is Kim. She's a head registrar. So when you check in, if they got a complaint, she's got to listen to it. Something, I've been there, and I've just sat on a windowsill and watched. Guys come in, they come over and start crying to her. Oh, jeez, Louise. If it were me, I'd have her gone, bang, so much for that. But she smiles. Yes, look, can I help you? Blah, blah, blah. When they leave, they're smiling. It's done. And she's going, whew, thank God for that. How she lasts
honestly,
a day
I have
is beyond
two.
me.
I have two that I put in that. They're just unbelievable to diffuse cranky people, unhappy people. At the track, she's the best in the world. They come in, their hair is on fire if they have any hair, and they're in a pissy mood. And, you know, God forbid, you know, somebody took their parking space or they need need some insanely stupid thing. But to them, it's everything. She smiles and gets them out of there and goes like that afterwards. But she really is a pro. And on the phone, I have a lady in Dallas. Her name is Kathy Swinford, and she handles all the racers from around the country by phone. So if you call up and they want to tell their life story, or they, holy crap, they, you know, we owe them $6 credit or whatever their issue is, unbelievable. She handles them. So those two, I can't be that person. I can be that person for about an hour a day, and then they know I got all I'm going to take for. I carry 500 with me, and say, "Here you go. Go home. I don't want to talk to you." Right. So I'm not the head of customer service. They don't have me do that. So it's important that you have people that can diffuse a situation and do it with excellence, but they don't get run over. I mean, she'll do what's right, and Kathy will do what's right. They just have a knack for diffusing it, where if they get my face after about 3 of those in the morning, I'm not that good guy to take the complaints to.
Yeah, I heard they say, where's Tony? He went back to the hotel. Oh. Now, before you started in on this effort, you had a very successful career, although you said, I was in telecommunications. I never had anybody come up to me and say, gee, I love your phone, or I love your service. I got to tell you, if you didn't read on my website or my Facebook what this gentleman did prior to, but he raced during that. He was the founder of MFS Intelnet. He's the founder of Allegiance Telecom. He purchased Shared Technologies from bankruptcy as the CEO. He completed the sale of Shared Technologies to Arrow Electronics. You've heard of that one. He completed several corporate acquisitions, both private and public. He was a Fortune Top 100 companies to work as Shared Technologies, Fortune 100 top companies to work for as Shared Technologies CEO 4 consecutive years. That doesn't happen. Best company in Texas to work for as Shared Technologies CEO 5 consecutive years. The recipient of the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2009, recipient of the ESGR Pro Patria Award in 2008, finalist of the Dallas CEO of the Year Award in 2008, author of Fractured to Fortune, and author of Winning in Technology, featured in Technology Leadership Strategies. You ought to know how to talk. You're in technology and all this kind of stuff. You had a very successful career. How much of that experience in buying and selling companies and bringing them up out of bankruptcy did you bring with you into this?
In some respects, I think what the success. I mean, I did buy 64 companies over a period of 30 years. So I was schooled in how to buy a company. And on this journey, Spheri has acquired 4 companies, counting Trans Am. And so in 6 years, we bought 4 companies. It definitely helps, but I don't think that's the key to our success. I think the key to our success is how you lead people. And I think what I'm most proud of in business isn't taking companies public or buying one out of bankruptcy. And we've had very good financial success, but that's just business. What made telecommunications work for me was the people who I got to work with. So when we bought ShareTech out of bankruptcy, and it became one of the top 100 companies in America to work for 4 years, that culture was amazing. And I mean, we really had something special there. So my goal is you have to have over 1,000 employees work for you to be on that list. You can't have like 6 people. You got to have 1,000 employees. But they do have best small company in America to work for, and that's well within our range. I haven't applied for it because I haven't slowed down long enough to fill out the paperwork. But I think we will. That's a goal that I have in the back of my mind, that I want SVRA and I want Trans Am and I want everything under the Pro Motorsports Holdings company or banner, VRQ magazine, to make a top 100 at Fortune. And it's not because I need a plaque. It's a confirmation from your people. The way you get there is there's a 64 question, I mean, detailed survey that they have to fill out. And then they do a Harvard level deep dive of your benefits. And there's some things that I have in the back of my mind that I want to put in place for my employees here that I just haven't gotten to yet, but we will. And then I think we'll be ready for prime time. And that would mean something to me, because at this stage of the game, I worked them so hard to get these 14 events in now. They need to be rewarded the proper way. And that's a way that tells me that I'm on the right track. If you get that badge of honor from Fortune, you're in pretty good company. I mean, when we were Google and Apple and household names, and my little Share Technology was like, I made it. You know, that felt, but there was a sense of pride across our employees that I had never seen in a workplace before when we did make it. And that certainly translated to customer experience.
Well, I happen to know that you do have the time to take care of some of these things, because you remodeled a house up in the Northeast. Instead of pounding nails and smoothing out plaster, you should have been taking care of this.
Yeah, well, the house is finished. So
Oh, really?
we bought.
Is it finished? Oh, it is.
It's finished.
Okay.
Inside's finished. We bought a 200-year-old home up on Seneca Lake and north of Watkins Glen, and we spent about a year and a half renovating it. And it's truly God's country to be up there. It's beautiful. Cold, but beautiful.
Yeah. I asked Kim when she moved there, did she bring a shovel from Florida or Texas? And she said, no, but there's one there. And now we got a snowblower. She said, I sent Tony out to shovel the snow. It's too damn heavy, so we got a snowblower. I'll tell you what, I have been unduly impressed with what you've done. I consider myself honored to know you, that I can call you up and you'll ask. If you don't look at who's calling, you'll answer the phone. If you see it, you go, I don't need this nonsense. But how long are you in town for the PRI show?
We'll leave Saturday sometime. I'm on roller skates. I mean, if for race-related sponsorship, this is the capital of the world this weekend. If you don't make it this week, you got to work real hard to get to everybody. They're all here. So whether you're trying to get somebody who sells motor oil or parts or tires or gasoline or whatever their thing is, if it has to do with racing, they're in that convention center. So I've come every year because it's just you can cover so much ground in 1 week. It's amazing. So I'm always excited to come here for that. But just honestly, just coming to Indianapolis, I mean, it sounds corny, I still get really, really excited just pulling up in front of that. I mean, sometimes they frustrate the hell out of me, and putting on an event here is not easy. It's not. This place it's huge, and there's so many areas that you got to be on your game. And with the staff we have, we really work hard to do this event, but it's Indy. And there's nowhere in the world like Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I feel a pressure when I come here that I want the fans to feel like they really got a great day for their money, and pay tribute to the guys who really built racing, in my mind, who built racing. It was done here, and to have them involved is a privilege. I mean, to this day, I raced. I'm the only guy in the world who can say my co-driver was Al Unser at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He was my co-driver, and I mean that's an honor. I mean, think about what an honor if you're a racer to have Al Unser. We're going around in a rent car. Okay, here's your mark, Al. Holy crap! I'm telling him where to put the race car, right? I mean, come on. So it just, I mean, who could say they did that? It's crazy. It's amazing.
Well, maybe you ought to go down. Have you been to the Grand King shop yet?
No.
You ought to go down there Friday night. They got probably prime rib steak. Oh, no? Bubba Burgers, and they'll have a cash bar. Well, I know you don't drink, but
Friday night, I'm
Uh-oh.
going
Here
to
it goes.
St. Elmo's with Al Unser Jr.
the heck with he's here all the time. This is better than St. Elmo's.
I gotta buy him dinner.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I'm not busy.
come on.
Yeah. Listen, I think when I talk to you, are you coming? No, I'll be in Wednesday. Oh, you won't be here to do the program. You got space for me? Well, yeah. So they came in today to do this, and I'm privileged and honored that you have taken the time to come here, and even more that you brought her with you. And she's over there yapping with my tech guy, for crying out loud. If the picture went away, it's his fault. He's over yapping with Kim. You brought Kim along. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming here. And thanks for what you're doing. I can't wait to get here in August. I think that's a good move, personally, but nobody asked me ahead of time. I think that's a good idea. It's a nice space in between.
Yeah,
What's going on here?
I think it will be. I really dug my heels in. They did not want me to go on Father's Day weekend, and I was, no, we got to do Father's Day weekend. And Saturday we would do really well, and Sunday we did really bad. I mean, this year was 99 degrees or some crazy heat wave. So I don't know much of that, but it was enough for me to wave the white flag and say, all right, you win. All I ask is we don't step on IndyCar date. If you put me whenever the hell you want to put me in there, but don't put on IndyCar date because I recruit guys for the Pro-Am. And this date works out really well for me. I just hope the weather's good and the fans come out. We're gonna work hard to get the word out, and we'll see what happens. I hope it's a good move. I hate moving a date because people get used to a date, and I had some brand equity with Father, bring your dad to the racetrack, but it was 3 weeks after May. And a lot goes on here in May, and so I don't know. The conventional wisdom was you're wrong on Father's Day. So who am I to say no? Let's try it. So I hope it's right.
Well, John says you're right. He says he can make it here. So if he says whatever he says, I listen to. Fortunately, I'm not there enough for him to say anything, so I don't have to pay any attention to him. I thank you for your time. I thank you for what you're doing. I enjoy reading your Vintage Racing Quarterly. It's some really good stories. Pam does a heck of a job with that magazine, I got to tell you. Thanks for being here. While you're down at the PRI show, look them up. They're there. You can maybe even commandeer a magazine, take it home with you, and then you'll say, I got to subscribe. And it's been growing. She tells me the subscriptions have been picking up.
Oh, yeah.
Geez, have you done anything in this thing that hasn't worked that's gone, oh, boy, we might have to get a loan to, huh?
You
Oh,
had to bring up Rockingham. Thanks a lot.
That
All right, true story, and we'll get out of here. My first year, I decided we're going to race at Rockingham. I had 3 events the year before, so what the hell, I got to go someplace. Rockingham was so desperate, they took me, and I wanted to do something really cool. So I said, we're going to have this massive pig roast, and I'm going to give away Junior Johnson moonshine. Every racer who comes to the racetrack, they're going to get their choice of boysenberry, blueberry, peach, and all these flavors of moonshine. I bought 300 jars of Junior Johnson because I'm going to set a record for attendees at Rockingham. We had 23 cars, and 2 of them were mine. I'll be drinking moonshine till my grandkids will be drinking moonshine.
By the way, How's the pretzel business doing? Your daughter's got a very
They're
successful.
selling lots of pretzels. They got it happening in pretzel land. They sell lots of pretzels.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of meeting his daughter, super gal, very nice, and she's very busy, but she always comes to Indy to hang out with her dad. Because I think she probably is tired of eating pretzels. She wants to go to St. Elmo's. She knows you're a touch. Oh yeah, come on, we'll go down there. Thanks for being
everybody.
here,
Thank you.
Tony Perella. Thanks for being here. Don't forget, next week I am scheduled. I say scheduled. I was told he's free. Should be there. Put it down in pencil. So I did write it on my thing in pencil. Zach Veach is to be here. That'll be interesting to see him. And we'll find some other individual. And then our last program of this year will be the 18th of December. And we'll come back on the second or third Tuesday in January. So try and be here because the last two are going to be good ones. And I guarantee you the one the 18th is going to be a good program. You'll enjoy that. So thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Until next week, Don K. saying good night. See you then.